We have a health crisis in America right now. 88% of Americans are metabolically unhealthy. The standard American diet's full of seed oils, sugar, refined carbohydrates, artificial ingredients, and a whole bunch of things we can't even pronounce the names of that is doing who knows what to our health. How and why have we let this become the new norm? It's time we start to do something about it. Today's guest is Michael Brandt. He's the co-founder and CEO of H.V.M.N, which stands for Health via Modern Nutrition, and their product Ketone-IQ helps promote energy, focus, athletic performance, and appetite control. Ketone-IQ has taken over in elite performance sports and also your everyday workplaces. Now, our body's not really meant to always run off of sugar. In terms of evolution, our ancestors were a lot of times fueled by ketosis, which is when the body starts making ketones when there's no sugar available in the blood. Ketone-IQ helps you tap into that ketosis, which improves your metabolic health without having to completely restrict carbohydrates. I'm a huge fan of the product. I use it every day, and I really think it's going to be instrumental in helping improve the metabolic health of millions of Americans, and hopefully billions worldwide. I learned a ton in this episode throughout this interview with Michael, and I know you guys are going to walk away with some great stuff as well. Now, if you find value in this conversation, do me a favor, like this video, subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it. It helps the show grow so we can reach and impact more people. Now, let's dive into it with Michael Brandt. You mentioned like January of this year, like you kicked it into high gear with like your personal brand and with building the H.V.M.N brand. What have you seen since then when you decided to really go all in on just like educating people on what you're actually doing and really leveraging social media?
It's been huge because up until that point was really focused on building the HVMN brand, making the company look really cool, build a following there, and then realizing that some of these best brands, you've got your Apple and you got your Steve Jobs, you got your Tesla, you got your Elon Musk. There's that like play between the brand and then like the kind of personal brand around the founder, and that you can I see that you can be a little bit more like frank and loose as a founder. Like Steve Jobs would say things that wouldn't necessarily come from like like Apple brand department. Like he could keep it a little bit more raw. He'd be like a little bit more, literally unshaven, but just like a little bit more uh off the cuff and could say just what he really thought about things. And then Apple could be this like pristine. Like, brands have a way of being on a pedestal for better or for worse because like a brand represents it's like a symbol. It's almost a meme of a sense of what that represents in the world. Like Nike swoosh, it's like so much bigger than one person. It's bigger than Phil Knight. It's bigger than Michael Jordan. It's bigger than LeBron. It's like swoosh represents. It's like this. It's this glyph in the thought space that means all this stuff to us, and it's millions of people's work and millions of hours of impression and dollars spent and all that. So it's got this special place, but then in a way, it's very unhuman. It's just like this symbol uh, that's been cooked up to mean something, and it's not an actual human being person. And especially in this day and age, people like I think responding to like a normal person, just like in their car on their way to work or like on a long run that they don't want to do today, and talking about how they're feeling about it, but like how they're breaking through it, or like just very frank, like, hey, here's me. It's like you're on a FaceTime call with me. That's how I always think about it. Like for my personal stuff is like, what if I was giving like another entrepreneur 3 tips on how to avoid burnout? I will just say it very like Dominic, here's what you got to do to avoid burnout. Like here's a few things that work for me. And just like that level of candor, having that come across on your like founder account while you let your brand account be more buttoned up, more like, hey, here's the latest science, or here's the latest product update, or here's the latest like, but, and then they like can play off of each other. You can be like more structured on the brand, and then you can be a little bit more wiggly and loose as a founder.
Do you think you've seen any crossover between like growth in your personal brand and also like brand growth as well? Like, are they running, vertically aligned there?
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. Because a lot of times people will follow one and then the other. It's like if you're like it's kind of like we have two flares up in the sky. It's like HMN is doing cool stuff. Our research lead has a PhD in metabolism from Oxford. He talks all about metabolic health, metabolic flexibility, nutrition, fitness, interesting items coming up in the general like world that we inhabit. So that's already going on. And then I'm out here doing my stuff. Hey, running around 7 miles barefoot. What happens? Like I'm doing my things. And then I don't know about you, but it's like if I see a cool founder and I like am drawn to them, it's like if their bio on LinkedIn or Instagram, whatever says like, oh, they're the CEO of blank. more than have a chance, I'll probably also follow their brand account, right? Like if someone catches my eye with like, oh, this person's interesting, they just caught my attention while I'm scrolling, I want to follow them. Yeah, more often than not, it's like if you're gonna follow Gwyneth Paltrow, like you'll probably also follow Goop, right? Like if you're gonna follow like Mr. Beast, you'll maybe probably also follow Feast of Bowls. If you're gonna follow Logan Paul, you maybe probably will follow Prime. It's like it's not 100%, but it's basically like two shots on goal. So like, hey, maybe people follow your brand account, maybe people follow your founder account, maybe people will follow both, and it lends a lot of humanness to the overall effort where I think people want to buy things from real people more and more, not from faceless corporations. People want to even partners, like when we work with cool people, when we work with Andrew Huberman, or we work with the Move with Lance Armstrong and George Hincapie, when we work with Eric Hinman, like whoever work with Sarah Hall, she holds the American record for masters women. Like when you work with someone like that, like you want that just like personal connection, and then having a active founder, I think, is more helpful in doing that than if you are just a like brand with a logo. It's like, what is this faceless corporation? Like who is this? What is this? So this is funny. It's actually a really interesting topic, Dominic, because like it's not a topic that people ask me about a lot. Honestly, it's funny that we jumped into it because everyone usually asks me about like, what's a ketone? What's metabolic flexibility? How do I feel better? How do I do better on my runs? Um, and I would say that's also really interesting. I'm like passionate about a very small number of things, and like ketone science, building a business, and then like kind of like content platform building inside of that. So it's a fun like branch inside of that I'm definitely like thinking a lot about. And it's funny, just to complete the thought there, like I feel like marathon running for me is like the perfect analogy into all of this stuff, because like building a following, it's like it's just sets and reps. It's just like you get up and you do your run every day. Some days are like big breakthrough moments. Some days like you almost feel like it's a step backwards. It's like, but you just keep getting up and doing it. And you keep learning. You keep like developing it. You keep sometimes you're working on being faster. Sometimes you're working on running longer. And sometimes those are at odds with each other. Your long runs aren't your fast runs. Your fast runs aren't your long runs. Like, and that whole, it's a very powerful analogy to me as an entrepreneur. It's all like the very same energy at the top level.
No, absolutely. And I think, I mean, we'll definitely talk about your ketone, what is a ketone and metabolic flexibility and how they can benefit your health. But I'm really interested in what the parallels or crossovers have been in terms of like we're thinking about a brand. You need to have one, a great product. You need to have something that actually helps people. And then you need to have great branding. You need to have a strong mission, messaging, social media, a team behind you to help, fuel the growth of this product because you get the best product in the world. But if nobody knows about it or it's got terrible packaging or anything like that, like it's not going to sell and you're doing the world a disservice, right? So I think you guys have this really, really great intersection right now of like an amazing product, but also like really, really cool branding, really great education and things like that. So what has it been like trying to, formulate this process of like this ketones, which, are new to me in terms of, again, I didn't even know what they were. I'm still learning, what they are for the most part. I'm excited for you to kind of share more about what they are, but you kind of have two things that you're building, right? You're building the
Yeah.
actual brand itself, and you're continuing to, formulate this product that is really, really helping people and get it in the hands of more people, more athletes, people who are just trying to increase their overall quality of life. So, what has that parallel been in terms of like, being in the labs and working on the product and things like that to now like really let's focus on the brand, let's get it in the hands of more people, let's really like start to change the world with this.
It's all a giant computer game is one way to think about it. Like I played a lot of StarCraft, a lot of Civilization growing up, and especially those like strategy games, real-time strategy, turn-based strategy. It's like, yeah, you need minerals and you need Vespine gas. Like you need like multiple things at once. Like no, you can't only focus on one thing. You're absolutely right. You can't just focus on your technology. You also need to focus around
on the user experience around your technology. And then you need to focus on how you're marketing and storytelling around that. And then you need to focus on like how you're building a team that's going to go and do all of those things, because very quickly, like, you're not able to do that anymore as a founder. If you're good at your job as a founder, like, you're always shedding what you used to be doing. And it's about, one thing I think a lot about is the importance of not thinking in black and white terms, which often our minds are drawn to, which is like, this is what matters or this doesn't matter. It's like a lot of things matter. There's like, it's truly a pie chart, and all the pieces need to come together, and no one piece is even the majority of the pie chart. Like, your technology, important; user experience, important; uh, branding, logo, color, all that, important; like, content that you're making, podcast you're making, important; partners you work with, important; like, art direction on all of your creative, important; like, ads buying, so you're getting the right content in front of the right people, important; capital strategy, getting the right investors, or do we get debt, bank loan? Like, how are we capitalizing the business? Do we not even need to because we're cash flow positive? Like, the multidimensional game there, it's like, it's a pie chart. It's, I think, a slippery slope sometimes, because our minds sometimes want to think in black and white, where, hey, if I invent the flying shoe, it's just going to sell itself and I'll see you on my yacht. And it doesn't matter. Like, you could invent the flying shoe, but that's still like, you still got to do pretty much all of those other things that I mentioned there. And being able to hold that, like, kind of nuance in your mind, that like, this is important, but it's not everything, but it's not nothing. It reminds me, I mean, the analogy into running would be, it's like, very quickly I learned as I got into, sub elite marathoning. I'm a 2:42 marathoner. So, like, not
That's fast. So for anybody listening, I have a lot of runners listen to this podcast. That's fast. But for anyone who doesn't realize that, how fast is that per mile?
it's like 6:10 per mile.
That's
So
cooking. That is
go on,
cooking.
get on the treadmill, pump it up to like 9.8, 9.9, like, and just hang out there for 2.5 hours. That's my idea of a good time. And but it's fast. It's, like, I'm not going to the Olympics, anything like that, but it's fast enough to where I've had to get really serious about my training. Like, just for me personally, like, dipping below 3-hour marathon meant like getting to a certain level of just like seriousness. I couldn't just throw pure athleticism at it. I couldn't just go run a bunch and then like magically show up at the start line and have a great day out. I had to be I started having to be very methodological about my run. Hey, today's run is really about speed. Today's run is really about distance. Today's run is really about like a heart rate zone training. Today's run, hey, I'm going to stack a run and then a weightlifting session right after it today, so that before the delayed onset muscle soreness kicks in from the long run, I've already gotten in a weightlifting session. And it's a mega hard day, and then tomorrow's going to be really easy. And like, periodizing my weeks, periodizing even across weeks in like a 18-week marathon build. And the analogy to draw there from like running at a sub elite level to business building is that, like, you can't go out on a given run and be like, I must be hitting my marathon pace right now today. Otherwise, I'm fucked. I'm not going to be able to hit it on race day. Like, come on. Today is just an 8-mile run. If I can't hit my race pace today, how the heck am I going to do it for 26.2 miles? Like, I got to go. But it's not true. It's like, that's completely not true. Like, today's run is like a piece of the overall pie. Today's run literally might just be, hey, put in 8 solid miles that contribute to an overall 50, 60, 70, what mile week, whatever your weekly mileage goals is. And that, like, that goal in and of itself, if you stack enough 50-mile weeks together, you'll probably get a Boston qualifying time. If you stack enough weeks together doing 50 miles without getting injured, key point, don't die. If you don't get injured, don't get knocked out of the game, you'll probably hit your BQ. And so then the goal of today's run might just be stacking miles. And if you're 10, 20% slower than your race pace, great, groovy. You're getting miles in, you're moving fast enough to where it's similar enough to the movement patterns of your actual intended race pace. And you don't need to make every run this like summary judgment on how good you are as a runner. like every run is like a piece of the overall pie chart. Like today I'm going to run really fast, prove to myself that I can run fast. Tomorrow I'm going to prove to myself I can run long. Tomorrow, the next day I'm going to prove that like you have a different component. The next day I'm going to prove I can run fasted so that I can like know what it's like to be in a glycogen depleted state at miles 20 through 26.2 at the end. Like each run can have a purpose to it. And like no single run is filling in the whole pie chart for you. Each run is like contributing a portion. Like, hey, today's run I got better at going longer. Today's run I got better at metabolic flexibility. Today's run I got better at better movement patterns because I did some speed work. Like each run is a component of the pie, but there's absolutely no run that like is make or break where, hey, oh wow, this run today is a reason I'm gonna set my BQ or set a PR, or like it just doesn't work that way. And same point is like same in business. There's rarely like one thing that's like, wow, the perfect logo. If I could just design the Nike swoosh, this would sell itself. Like that's not even how Nike did it either. Like they did the swoosh and then they did a bajillion other things on top of it.
That's really interesting. And that's a great way to look at life, to look at business. I think there's a lot of carryover in that in fitness as well. I think running a marathon, like you said, like it's like the ultimate like analogy for like everything and just like stacking bricks to ultimately get what you want in life. It's not the one run that you do every single, it's not that one run that you do, you crush it. It's those small runs where you just get out there and you just get it done and you stack it day after day after day after day. And like you said, it's doing the little things that you don't necessarily always want to do, like the strength training sessions, the injury prevention, the mobility, the diet, the nutrition, things like that. So I'm curious, in you mentioned in fitness and running, in terms of business, in scaling HVMN, which we're going to get into what it actually is and how it benefits people, but in scaling HVMN and some of your other businesses that you've had in the past, what has been the carryover between like fitness and doing those things every day, just stacking one brick every day, but also in just building this business where you've now partnered with people like you mentioned, Andrew Huberman, Sarah Hall, seen you out there crushing it on the bike with Lance Armstrong. Like there's a whole lot of people who are singing the H.V.M.N and Ketone-IQ praises. So what has that been like to ultimately get it into the hands of people like this who actually, love it and are promoting it to their audience too?
There's a couple ways I would say fitness complements into business building. One is on just a very direct, immediate level when you're chewing on glass of your own volition in the morning. Like I woke up today and ran 15 miles that nobody asked me to do. And I just did it. And it's like you do that. And then all of a sudden, the rest of the day kind of has the volume dialed down on it. Like I've already done worse to myself than anyone can throw at me. And I'm ready for it. Like, and whatever, and that's, I think, true of running as well as a lot of other sports. I happen to just love running and think it's one, we're born to run. Humans have been running. It's the oldest sport, like tennis, basketball, whatever, invented in the last 100 years. Running, it's been around for 300,000 years. So
I was gonna say, did you do those 15 miles? Did you at least wear shoes this morning, or was
I
it
wore
barefoot?
shoes. I wore shoes this morning. Yeah, we could talk about that. I love to sprinkle in barefoot training for sure. Like it's an important part, but again, it's like it's not the majority of my runs, especially when I'm in a like deep marathon build. I like shoes, but I know you're commenting because I do a lot of posting around like running barefoot or running in Vibrams or my daily walk around shoes are Vivo barefoots, like just no padding. It's literally just the thinnest strip of rubber, wide toe box. Big believer, your foot is an incredible machine and we should free the toes and use what God gave us in our feet. And, if you're able to open up your foot with barefoot techniques and then also strap on the latest space age Nike or Saucony or whatever, Adidas, whatever your brand is, like if you can get both like together, then I have found that that's a really helpful overall training protocol, like having strong barefoot feet and stacking that with like really good shoes for the days that really matter. Um, w- going back to that point, it's like, yeah, running this morning, I wore shoes. So you run 15 miles in the morning and you just have like, I guess a certain confidence too, that whatever happens, it's like, it's just not as painful. Like I already did something painful to myself and you just feel like strength, resilience out of it into whatever happens next. And the thing is as you know, like with running, you really can't be in a hurry for it to end. Like the worst thing that your mind can go to when you're on mile 6 of a 15-mile run is like, sheesh, how many miles left? Okay, how much time per mile? Oh shit, I got another hour and 10 minutes. Like you can't go there. Like you have to just like, hey, am I cool right now on this 1 mile? Am I good? Am I breathing good? Like, can I breathe a little easier? Can I express gratitude for like the sunshine and the trees and the fact I'm out in nature and this is beautiful and that this like, can I actually just like be in the moment and actually enjoy it? Be thankful for all this. That it's a really important mindset to also have an entrepreneurship, because in entrepreneurship, it's the same way. Like you never know when it's going to end. Like you truly don't. A lot of entrepreneurs intend to take their company public or sell their company one day. Like they're looking for an eventual endpoint. Not all. Like you can also just keep your company private forever. But even if you are looking for that endpoint, it's like it could be a decade. It could be like a long. Even for me, we've been cracking at it for a number of years here. It could be another decade out, and just that need for an escape valve, the ability to like self talk your way out of needing to escape. Just like, yo, can I just like am I actually good today? Am I actually in a hurry to wrap this up, or like can I reframe around something I'm grateful for and enjoying the journey and getting stronger and better every day? And like these are the good old days. Like I guarantee you, when you're in your wheelchair, if we're even so lucky to live to be 90 or whatever, that you'll look back on those days when you were like VO2 maxing and puking your guts out on the track. You'll relish those days. You'll like wish you could like reload your video game character right back into that moment. So like, can you take that right now and enjoy it right now today, as though you were 90 looking back on right now today? Like I'm sure if whenever I sell the company, go public, whatever, new, like pass the reins to a new CEO, whatever, that I'll look back on these as the good old days. And so it's the same mindset of like, can you just enjoy the moment without being in a hurry for it to end? Without like, can you truly enjoy mile 6 without being in a hurry to be done with the race? Like, can you truly drop into the moment and just be like, yo, this is actually the funnest possible thing I could be doing with my body right now, is be out here cruising, breathing, living life. This is the shit. I love this. Like, thank you. Gratitude to the universe for the ability to experience this right here, right now. If you can get there, then like the 15 miles just comes and goes, right? Like if you can have fun as an entrepreneur, meeting people, making things, launching things, doing stuff, like like the money will just take care of itself. Like you'll figure it has a way to figure itself out if you're enjoying the little things along the way and like, oriented it all towards the right direction, of course.
No, I love that. That's so good. Such a good analogy for life too. Is just take every day as it comes. Just put one foot in front of the other. As we do in running,
Yeah.
and just enjoy the good old days that are right now. I love it. So H.V.M.N, right? We just had we cheers before Ketone-IQ. We had our daily ketone shots. What the heck is a ketone? Like 101. Talk to me, like ketones for dummies. What is the product? Why does it make me feel so damn good and dialed in? Talk to me like I'm an idiot, which I am with this.
We're all born knowing nothing. It is all good. We are all I didn't know what a ketone was at some point. So there's no really dumb questions here. A ketone is a form of fuel. There's calories inside of it. So the same way 1 gram of carbohydrates has, what is it, 7
I think it's 4. I
how
think it's 4.
many calories in a carb gram? Yeah, 4 calories per gram. The same way a gram of carbs has 4, ketone actually has 7 calories per gram. So it's a form of fuel. It's considered a macronutrient. It's really interesting because there's only 3 macronutrients. There's carbs, there's fat, there's protein. And now there's ketones, and it's this fourth macronutrient. It's this new form of fuel that your body can use to do all of the things that your body needs energy for. So that's thinking, that's running, that's recovering after your run, that all of the types of activities that your body does that create an energy demand that you need calories for, ketones can help fuel those activities. What makes them really special is they're really an efficient form of fuel. So they're able to turn, if people remember their high school biology, you have your mitochondria, power plant of the cell. They're constantly creating ATP. And that's like the energy currency of your cell. And ketones are able to create ATP more efficiently. So using less oxygen than carbohydrates, as well as creating less oxidative stress. So oxidative stress is basically like if your mitochondria is an engine, then you're creating some like gunk, like the same way in your car, you need oil change. Like that oxidative stress that makes recovery harder, that makes there be more inflammation, that accelerates the process of aging. So ketones are a form of fuel that create less oxidative stress. Um, to demystify it a bit, this is not something that we just created out of the ether one day, like poof, here's a ketone. The fact is that your body already makes and uses ketones all the time, and we have for 300,000 years. You make ketones inside of your body all the time from fat. So if you're ever on a long run, towards the end of your long run, you run through most of your blood sugar. You can only store like a finite, smallish amount of energy as of carbohydrates as sugar in your blood and in your muscles and your liver. You can store like you know, like depending on how active you are, like you can, if you're just still, if you fast for a day or two, you'll burn through it. If you're running hard, you'll burn through it in a couple hours. And your body will start, as your blood sugar goes down, it will start ramping up ketone production. So your fat on board on your body, you have a lot more fat than sugar or carbohydrates stored. Like in fact, like in order for your body to store sugar long term, you actually turn it into fat. And so even on a lean individual, even on like a marathon runner, cyclist, whatnot, you have 100 times more energy calories stored as fat than you do at any given point of like immediately available sugar or glycogen or carbohydrates, all using those terms interchangeably here. And so whenever you're running low on blood sugar, your body will make ketones naturally, like always had. This is not something we invented. This is 300,000 years. Like Dominic on the savannah, if you haven't eaten in a day or two, you're making ketones from fat. An important characteristic is that your brain can use glucose, but it can't use fat, and it can use ketones. So because we often run low on blood sugar, there's not just constant carbohydrate availability, especially on the savannah, right? There's no peanut butter cups, Lucky Charms on the savannah. Like we don't have constant abundant availability of carbohydrates in an ancestral context. So what do you do when you run out of carbohydrate? Do you keel over and die? No. Does can your brain use fat? Your brain can't use fat because fat doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier. You have a very like selectively permeable. Your blood-brain barrier protects your brain from a lot of uh, foreign substances, larger compounds getting in there. So you have to turn fat into ketones in order for your brain to keep chugging along whenever you're in a low carbohydrate state. So again, if you're exercising, if you're eating low carb to begin with, or if you're fasting or starving, in any of these contexts, your body is already going to be making ketones as this like, super efficient metabolic substrate to power your body and especially your brain. My question that I had like 5 years ago was like, hey, ketones are super efficient. A lot of people feel really good when they're 2 hours into a run, they have runner's high, or when they're fasting, a lot of people have these like peaks of feeling really clear and euphoric when they're fasting. Like, why is it that it feels so good to have ketones circulating in your system? Is there a way I can go to the store and just buy a shot of ketones without having to jump through all these hoops, without having to like carb restrict or do a ketogenic diet? Or like, is there a way I can just have that fuel immediately available? And that was the like dumb / smart question that led us to where we are today, where it was non-trivial to do. It was very like no one had done it before at any kind of scale. We launched the world's first ketone drink, got a multi-million-dollar contract with the Department of Defense Special Operations Command in 2019. 2019, they were extremely interested in exogenous ketones for physically, cognitively demanding missions. So it did a lot of work with them, still are ongoing, doing work with the Department of Defense. And after 3 years of working with the DoD, we figured out a way to scale up our supply chain and make the formula taste better. Like the V1 tasted like absolute battery acid. It still tastes kind of crazy. It still like definitely tastes like rocket fuel, but um, a lot, a lot more drinkable. And in January of last year, January of 2022, we launched to the consumer world. We launched Ketone-IQ, and now we're in Sprouts grocery stores nationwide. We're in Equinox, Earth Bar. We're in a bunch of stores or on Amazon. We're just out here in the world partnering with a lot of people, and it's been a really fun adventure, and it's cool. I just love hearing all the ways that people are using it because we're just helping people send it, helping people to like go for a great run or have really good stamina at their office job or study for the LSATs or whatever they're trying to do. We're like empowering people to do that in a way that's not just like jacking them up with caffeine or slamming a bunch of sugar, which isn't too metabolically healthy for you. That like we're helping people to go get after it and live their best lives, which I don't know. I just think ketones should be everywhere. I think it's like a fundamental fuel source that should be everywhere. It should be ubiquitous. It should be like 10% of global calories should come from ketones. And there's probably a lot easier ways to get rich than doing this. But like, that's not what's important to me. Like, again, it's like, I'm sure that that will happen by just creating something valuable, interesting in the world. Like that the shareholder value will be maximized. But like, what gets me out of bed in the morning is the like, hey, let's create something novel, new, fun in the world. And yeah, it's doing it live. I feel like we're in the middle of it. I like don't consider it like work's not done, job's not finished, but it definitely feels like it has good momentum to it right now.
Helping people send it. That should be tagged. That should be put on the bottle right there. I freaking love that. So I'm interested on something. I'm interested in multiple things you said there,
Yeah.
but one thing in particular was you said that you think 10% of people's daily calories should come from ketones. Was that correct?
Yeah, look, people don't think twice before slamming Coca-Cola with 37 grams of sugar in it. Like people take on exogenous sugar like it's nothing all the time. And it's like, why don't you get your fuel, your caloric needs from something way better? Like to me, that's
Mm,
not unreasonable. It's like, I get it that it sounds a little crazy, but it's like, I don't know, it's probably crazy to be like, hey, I invented Nikes and every one day like a billion people are gonna wear my shoes. Or like, hey, I invented the iPhone. It doesn't have a keyboard. Everyone's gonna love it. Um, like it's to me good crazy. It's like, yeah, like it actually does check out that like I don't know if you actually open your eyes inside of a 7-Eleven or whatever, like 80-90% of the calories in there are super low grade, like seed oils and sugar and just like very low grade calorie sources. And in principle, like ketone IQ is not like super cheap. It's 4.95 a shot right now, but in principle, we can continue bringing down the price. Like it the same way when you see computers from like the 1970s, it's like this whole ass like truck van, huge ass shit, and it's like, yo, this was like a megabyte or something. It's like, dog, my
right, right.
iPhone has a terabyte. Like what? Like it has like a bajillion times more than what got us to the moon. Like so that cost curve that you see with like technology innovation, we're gonna keep seeing with ketones. So I think
Sure.
it's like not crazy that the same way that you saw, like caffeine is everywhere or collagen is everywhere. The same way you see like protein, like CBD. The same way you see like nutritional primitives kind of crop up, and then when there's like real fundamental value behind them, they just evolve into all different formats. Like, oh, there's a bar, there's a drink, there's a this, there's a that. Like that's gonna happen whether exist or not. Like to me, that's just like an inevitable march of human progress that's gonna happen. And it's like if Elon Musk dropped dead, like probably electric cars would still happen. Maybe not as fast or something, like, but it would still happen. It's one of those things like if Al Gore hadn't invented the internet, like would the internet still happen? Like probably. I'm saying that kidding if people can't tell. If Yeah, like if you have, I think, founders or characters in general who like can help, accelerate the progress of human society. But I think fundamentally what's going to happen is going to happen. It's like water flowing down a mountain. You can kind of like direct it or channel it better, but at the end of the day, like you can't make the water like go up the mountain or do something completely unnatural. Like things are going to happen if they're going to happen, and you can like help move them along and like create value and capture value along the way if you do that. Uh, but to me, it's like I see ketones are an inevitability, whether I do anything about it or not, and I'm excited to be doing something about it.
No, 100%. And I love that. And so the reason I asked was because, if you on the labels of Ketone-IQ, it says, you guys recommend not taking more than like 3 in a day.
Mhm.
But if you think about it, if a ketone has 7 calories per gram, so it's 70 calories for 70 calories for a little shot of this guy right here. Somebody eating a 2,000 calorie diet, 3 of these, that is about 10%
There you go.
of their daily caloric intake. So for someone else, and runners, you got elite runners who are eating a lot more than 2,000 calories per day. Is
Yeah.
it okay for somebody eating a higher calorie diet, somebody who's a lot more active, to consume more on a daily basis?
Where it's so I personally do. I'll have more on a daily basis. Where we're at now is like that the limit is the limit. It's 3.5 servings per day is what we're like approved to like sell, like with all of our, because we did a ton of FDA safety data clearance, whatnot, to get it out to market. And that's where we're at right now. We're working on like expanding that outward, because again, I would like, my argument is like that if you can have 37 grams of sugar in a single Coca-Cola, like what are we so concerned about here?
It shouldn't even be legal. It shouldn't even be legal.
Yeah, yeah. And I like there is a certain natural progression where like things come out to market and then they'll have like a certain, you know, it's okay to have X much. And then once it's on market for longer, it kind of like relaxes up from there. Um, so it's that's where we're at on that. It's like when CBD first came out, it was first like legalized, like, okay, you can put a tiny amount. And then once people saw, oh, okay, this is pretty low side effect profile, then eventually like things will relax. So that's where we're at. Like personally, I'm super comfortable with getting like large amount of energy from ketones among, a balanced diet. Like I would never just like drink just keto. It's more just like I'm not concerned about having it often, um, in between meals and stuff. And yeah, I'm excited for price to come down. Excited for in general, just like has been on market longer, to be able to like relax even our recommendations. I think both need to happen, because right now, like there's not like how many people can afford, $20 of ketones a day? Some people for sure. Like we definitely have our like hedge fund golfer triathlete bro who, like that, you know, whatever, you're making 300
Loves
a year or
ketones.
something.
Yeah, just loves ketones.
Yeah, it's and if you're listening, we love you. Like we
Yeah, we
appreciate you
love
very
you.
much. And yeah, that's where we're at. But I want to get to the spot where it's like just like super mega cheap. It's like where it could be cheaper than 5 hour energy or something like that. Like right now,
Mhm.
caffeine and all that stuff is that's such a massive economy of scale that it's just pennies on the dollar. Um, and it's just, stair stepping up economies of scale
Sure.
to get there.
I totally hear you on that. Like balanced diet first, right? Focus on the other macronutrient. Most importantly, I think protein is extremely important, and making sure you're properly fueled, getting it in from, you know, real high quality sources. It is really interesting kind of looking at you as an elite marathon runner. The Ketone-IQ, the exogenous ketones are very big in the ultra running space. I just had Jeff Browning on the other day, who I know he's a big advocate for it. I've had Zach Bitter on. He's talked about his use of taking in ketones, and just lots of, obviously, like you guys, I think, what did I see? Like 50 or 60% of the entire Tour de France is now like utilizing Ketone-IQ, which is amazing. For you as a marathon runner, so not this, hours and hours and hours of being out there, more so you're trying to go fast in like a, 2.5, 3 hour time frame, right? Like how is it differently utilized for like people trying to go, PR like a half marathon or a marathon, for example, versus somebody doing like ultra endurance and multi-hour events?
Where it really starts to matter, where just general metabolic flexibility starts to kick in, is around that 1 hour mark, where you have these different fueling systems in your body, right? You have your carbohydrate fueling system, and then you have your fat and ketone fueling system. Your carbohydrate fueling system, you can think about it like, if this analogy makes sense, like RAM versus your hard drive, where like your your RAM is very quick to access, very, very fast access, versus a hard drive, especially like before we had solid state hard drives. You had to like spin a disk, the little needle has to go to the right spot in the disk, it's slower. But why do you have both? It's like, well, your RAM, if you look at your computer, it's like your RAM will have like 64 gigabytes of RAM, and then it'll have like a terabyte of hard drive, because RAM is super expensive. Like
Mhm.
if you if you want a large volume, you got to have a hard drive. If you want something quick, you have RAM. So you have like a small, inside of your body's fuel sources, you have a small amount of carbs which you can draw upon really quickly, and which help you to do really quick things, high intense activities. And then you have a ton more of fat that you can use directly sometimes, and you can also turn that fat into ketones. And it's a slower process. It's slower to pull on that fat. It's slower to convert that into usable energy, but you have a lot more of it. And so if you're going to do something like run a mile or run an 800 or run a 10K even, that's so high intensity that you're mainly going to be using glycogen, carbohydrates, using these terms interchangeably. You're mainly going to be using your carbohydrate system for high intensity efforts that are under an hour. Once you start going longer than that, well, like you can't hold 10K intensity for 3 hours. Like you can't. Um, Over these longer periods, your intensity level drops. And when your intensity level drops and you're prolonging the total duration of the exercise, that starts being where your fat and ketone system will kick in. So a lot of what people do, so marathon is an interesting distance. Even a half marathon is, because it's like at just over that crossover point where fuel selection starts to really matter. That what a lot of marathon runners will do is they'll intentionally go on a fasted run at least 1 or 2 days a week. It's not going to be usually your hardest run, but like you'll do a zone 2 run in a fasted state, so you're training your body to be able to use fat and ketones, and to be able to, you literally develop more of the enzymes to break that down, and then also to be able to metabolize that into usable energy. So you're getting that more metabolic flexibility. Like any time you're running in general as a distance runner, you're getting some degree of metabolic flexibility. Your body's getting better at drawing on fat and putting it to use. And and especially if you, the trade-off with training with carbs. So here's when I will train with carbs is if I'm going to do a track session where I'm doing like 12x400s, or if I'm doing a threshold run where I really want to like I want my legs to be moving fast. It's important my legs are moving fast today. I will have carbohydrates before that. If it's a like long run where there's not speed work involved in it, to me, that long run, the main goal of that long run is to be able to have stamina, to be able to have metabolic flexibility for the latter miles in a marathon. So more likely than not, for that long run, I will do it fasted, or at least like will not have carbs beforehand. And I'll do that so that my body is like forced to draw upon fat, getting faster at that metabolic flexibility. And then when you start stacking this together, it's really interesting, right? Because if you do a proper marathon build where you've done some speed work, so your legs are like fast and strong and they know the movement patterns of moving quickly, and then you've done some longer zone 2 work where you've really let your body exercise in a fat burning zone. If you stack this all together and you've done this repeatedly for weeks and weeks, then you show up on race day, you have a nice, taper for a week or two. You show up on race day and your body's able to move efficiently at high speed, and it's able to draw upon your fat and ketone system in order to fuel yourself for a long run. And combine on that, like it's all like I would also recommend carb loading 48 hours before your race so that you have carbs. And then as those carbs deplete during your race, your body also has that metabolic flexibility to be able to draw upon fat and ketones. And this just becomes more important for these longer events, because if you're doing a 100-mile race, it's like, okay, you can't change the fact that your body really can only store so much carbohydrates. You have this tiny RAM chip, this tiny small amount of carbohydrates compared to the hard drive, large capacity of fat and ketones. So if you're doing an event that's 20 hours, you're going to run out of carbohydrates really quickly. You can only eat and digest so much. That's another key factor, is that like, even if you're slamming a goo every 20 minutes, eventually you just get backed up. Like eventually you cannot digest fast enough to keep up with your energy expenditure. Like you're burning faster than you can possibly throw more coal onto the fire. So you can try, right? Like you certainly should. Like if you're doing any kind of race, like I always say, just eat as much as you possibly can without barfing, like without like any driving any performance drawbacks. Like eat as much goo. If you can eat a goo every half hour, cool. If you can have one every 15 minutes, cool. Like no matter how fast you do it, you're not going to be able to keep up. So go as fast as you can. Obviously practice this, but eat as much as you can without leading to any kind of GI distress, without barfing or crapping your pants, and like max out what you're eating, period. And then no matter what you do there's going to be some delta where you're not able to completely fuel your body's energy demands. And then in order to make up for that difference, you're going to be pulling on either like the stored carbohydrates from your carb loading for pasta dinner the night before, or you're going to be pulling from your fat and ketone store. And that's where you're seeing like a lot of, the Jeff Brownings of the world are getting really keen, or have been. I mean, Jeff's been doing it for a long time. Like we've been training notes for like 5+ years at this point on just like being really smart about how he's training, really developing that metabolic flexibility, using carbs selectively, like using it in a way that like is complementary to metabolic flexibility that he's already built, where he could go without carbs, but he then adds carbs like on top as kind of like a nitro, like afterburner. So he's able to really perform on race day. But he could, I just knowing Jeff, like he could probably fast for a full day and then do a 100-miler because he's so metabolically flexible.
What does that mean to be metabolically flexible?
It means that you're able to use the different types of fueling as needed, depending on what you're pushing your body through. So like that means that you're able to use fat and ketones well. So you have the enzymes present to be able to break it down and then be able to turn that into ATP, cellular energy. Like it's measurable. Like you can be better or worse at that. If you're on the standard American diet, just eating constantly sugar, constant elevated blood glucose, and you're not exercising very much, your body's not going to be very good at, you're not going to be very metabolically flexible. You're not going to have the ability to like tap into your fat and ketone system because you just have not practiced that. So you're going to very quickly deplete out. If you try and go do a long effort, you're going to very quickly deplete out and your body's not going to know what to do. If you take someone who's a pro endurance athlete or just, avid amateur getting after it in most all days of the week, that person's going to have high metabolic flexibility, ability to, when there's carbs present, be able to use carbs, like very snappy insulin response, ability to, like they're not constantly having high blood sugar. So when they do eat a goo, like their body is able to respond to it because they're not just like constantly eating candy all day. But when or if they are, they're like burning it down. Like their body will be responsive to the carbs that they provide it. And then their body will also be able to tap into fat and ketone system when needed, especially in the latter stages of a race. Does that make sense as far as metabolic flexibility?
Yeah, no, definitely 100%. Thank you for clearing that up. I'm curious, what does your training look like? Like you mentioned, on a day where maybe you're going to the track, you're hitting some repeats, you're gonna be going faster, having some carbs there. And Jeff talked about that and he mentioned that too. When it's when he needs to be going a little bit faster, he's going to utilize that. But when you're going out for like a zone 2 run where you're going to be in that fat burning zone,
some people will say it's better to have carbs before every run because it's going to help facilitate recovery. But I've also heard people talk about how actually utilizing ketones before going out for a run. I know that kind of doesn't technically, it could, depending on how you define fasting, it could be continuing to run as fasted, or it could not be. So when you go out for these like longer, easy runs, are you going out completely fasted? Are you having some sort of form of fat? Are you having ketones? Do you switch it up?
I will typically not eat right beforehand. So there will be, maybe depending on what like the prior 24 hours looked like, I will probably have a somewhat full glycogen store. Like if I ate dinner yesterday, I'll have some amount of that around, but I will also burn through it through just sleeping overnight and existing. And then in the morning, what I won't do is like top up. Like I won't like, okay, I'm gonna like have my Morton and my scratch and my banana. Like I won't do that. I will on race day, because again, on race day, like I really want that added incremental. But to me, I would rather be running like 645 splits, let's say, in a fasted state than like running low 6 splits in a fully replete stage, fully like loaded up glycogen stage, um, for these runs. Again, it depends on the purpose of the run, but like to me, the training benefit of being slightly slower, but doing it without carbohydrates, the metabolic flexibility that I'm getting from that, it's still good workout. It's still a good pace, still close enough to like my target race pace that the movement pattern is similar enough, but that I'm getting more metabolic flexibility from that than if I were to load up with carbs. If it's a speed day, if it's a day where it's like, hey, I really need to hit certain times. I want my body to be spending more time at like 540 pace or something like I'm doing mile repeats, or I'm doing track session, or like I want to explicitly be like getting stronger muscles, getting my body more comfortable moving at a fast speed, then I will fuel ahead of that training. So it really depends on the goal of the given run. Yeah. Like it really depends. Like if I'm going to lift for lifting weights, usually, I won't do that fasted, because it's by the same logic as, like a sprint or a speed workout. It's like, I want to be able to me, the goal of lifting weights is like to train my body, like to improve my max load of what I can do on a deadlift, because I know that when I'm running, I'm able to exert at whatever 60, 70% of my max load. Like that's what I'm able to do on every step as I'm running. So if my max load goes up 10%, then like my just cruising speed for running will go up also 10%. So to me, it's more important when I'm weightlifting, like that to me is all about building strength, building connection from my brain to my kinetic chain to be able to fire on command. That is not a workout for me that's about metabolic flexibility. That workout is about like strong movement. And if I need to be strong, powerful, fast, I will have carbohydrates. If it's a workout that's more around stamina, distance, metabolic flexibility, then I will generally do that fasted. I'm sometimes will have like a hard boiled egg or something, or coffee, or like if I'm going to eat something, I just like kind of need something in my stomach, I will have something ahead of time. But again, staying away from carbs. And the one thing I want to make clear too is like, I'm not trying to be in any kind of a calorie deficit through this. So like, I will just like, as soon as I'm done running, I will eat. So I literally I like make a smoothie beforehand and have it in my trunk. And that smoothie has like protein and almonds and fruit and bananas and some spinach and some yogurt. Like it's got like a really good macros, really good micronutrients, just like ready to go, like making sure I'm immediately getting 30 grams of protein, about the same amount of carbohydrates. Like I like yogurt, I like dairy, like just having that ready to go. Like as soon as I'm done, when my body's just ready to take that up. So I just want to make it clear, like I'm not trying to be malnourished or at a calorie deficit. It's more just like timing it where I'd rather have the same amount of calories, but just like do my run in a fasted state and then fuel up afterwards, that the training benefit, if it's a long run, that the training benefit will be greater by doing it in that sequence.
Gotcha. Okay. I like how you emphasize there too. You're not trying to be in a calorie deficit, right? It's
So
just train. Yeah.
I think like one of the easiest things that runners can do to get better is just eat more. Like straight up. I think a lot of runners don't run enough or don't eat enough for a number of reasons. I think sometimes running itself is weirdly appetite suppressing. It can be for some people. And or I don't know, people like are doing it because they want to get really skinny or something. Like there's different reasons why people don't eat enough, but literally like if you feel like you're kind of bonking or like you're not hitting your numbers or you're not getting quite enough like poppiness, you're not quite like literally do what I'm just saying, like have something in your trunk or in your pantry or whatever. So as soon as you're done with a run, you can eat it. Just like make sure, like force yourself, make sure you're getting enough calories into your system. And it's surprising how many people that will move the needle for, like, especially protein. You mentioned it yourself too. Like, I think a lot of runners don't think enough about protein. Like, yo, you are hammering your muscles, you are ripping them up. Like, this is not just like a carb loading thing. Like, you need to actually have protein in your diet. Like, I think runners should be eating like the way that uh any other athlete eats, which is like, try to get that like uh gram per pound of body weight. Like try to get like at least like up into that range. Like take it seriously. Like if you're not naturally having a lot of protein in your diet, like definitely force feed yourself some hard boiled eggs or have like a protein shake throughout the day. Like it doesn't hurt. It will only help to have like a protein shake. Just inject it into your day. Again, yeah, it's one of those like dumb but smart things. It's like making sure your shoes are tied or something. Like runners, like
Sure.
make sure you're eating enough. Like
Sure.
you might not be.
I'm curious. So if I'm trying to become more metabolically flexible and I want to teach my body to burn more fat for fuel, would taking in some ketones before one of these like zone 2 runs, is that still going to be beneficial for me to teach my body to burn fat for fuel? Or am I better off just like having nothing before going out for the run?
It's somewhere in between having nothing and having something carby. It's like the best would be just have nothing, like to be honest, because then you're not adding any calories to your system and your body's going to go and burn on deck fat. If you have something sugar, you have a bagel, granola bar, that's definitely going to spike your blood sugar and your blood insulin and going to slow down the rate at which your body would be starting to make and use fats. So having Ketone-IQ, it's somewhere in the middle where it's not spiking your insulin. Ketones don't spike insulin, which is the main thing that actually shuts down your body making of its own ketones. So it's like somewhere in the middle. You're adding calories to your system, but you're not doing it in a way that like absolutely slams the brakes on ketone production, but you are still adding some like buffer of calories to before your body would need to start making its own. So a lot of people do that because it's a way to like kind of like snaps you into action, and then you can go run and still have a lot of the metabolic flexibility benefits that like some people, it can be hard to get going if you're totally fasted. The little pick me up is helpful, but yeah, so you have a Kit Kat bar or something, you're not going to get the metabolic flexibility benefits to the same degree.
How do you utilize ketones then for your own training as an athlete?
So I will have them often before running, certainly on those days that are like more intense. I definitely do 2 runs a week that are fasted, that are just like nothing beforehand. And then usually it's like 1 or 2 runs a week where I'm intentionally fueling right beforehand. Like usually my long, like, so I have a long run on the weekends, and I have like a semi long run like midweek. So I'll have like a 20-mile run long on the weekends and like a 13 or 15-mile run midweek. That midweek, like semi long run, I'll always do that one fasted. And the long run on the weekends, I'll do that more fueled with ketones and with carbs, just because I want to make sure that's the closest thing I'm doing to a marathon. And I want to make sure I'm like really dialed in for that, versus the midweek 15-miler, 13-miler. that's more just like booking miles, getting that metabolic flexibility. Don't need to be a hero on that day. Just get some good like time on the feet and metabolic flexibility out of it. And then, so yeah, I'll do 2 runs fasted, 2 runs fueled, because usually I have a speed day during the week as well. So I'll be fueled for that. And then I'll kind of go off a feel on the other days in the week. And then one area where I honestly think Ketone-IQ is like for me, just like a total secret weapon is like after working out, before going about the rest of my day, like I used to feel very tired after a good workout where it's like, okay, I got in my run, I did good work, but now I'm like kind of tired, kind of like mushy brain for like a couple hours afterwards. And it wouldn't matter. Like you could have more coffee or you could have like eat more food. Uh, those didn't really help. But for me, Ketone-IQ has been a way to like be able to like snap into work mode in a way that where I'm not slamming a bunch of caffeine. And nothing else was really like doing that for me. Like the ability to go from like I was just running an hour ago to now I'm on a Zoom call and I'm like fully alert and dialed in. And I don't feel like I don't know about you. Like, yeah, sometimes when I run, I'm like, I give it all I got. And then afterwards, I'm like a little zoinked, and which I love doing. Like, that's a great run, but I'm not a professional freaking runner. I also have like a day job. And
Right.
so I need to like snap into that mode. And that's been an area where, yeah, maybe we should talk more about that on our website or something. Cause it's less, that's not about like, oh, I hit faster splits, whatever. It's more just like, just to live my holistic life of like being a serious amateur athlete, and then also having a like job that I need to be sharp for, like the ability to kind of fuel like from one into the other has been huge for me. And I'm also just curious what else other people try for that kind of thing. But that was been one of the things for me that I think have given me just an absolute unfair advantage, just like unlimited amount of Ketone-IQ as I'm like bouncing around all my training and entrepreneurship and everything.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting as the more and more it gains popularity, the more and more use cases of people and how they use it and whatnot. But I will say for myself too, that right there, what you just said, using it after a workout, usually I'm like rushing back, I'm crushing some eggs or a smoothie or something like you, having a quick meal or whatnot. Having like a Ketone-IQ alongside that kind of right allows me to like snap back into that work mode like you said. I feel my body able to recover a little bit better. Obviously we took one before we started this podcast,
Yeah, how you
and
feeling?
I'm dialed in. I'm so dialed in right now. Talk for hours, but no, it really is great. And as we begin to wrap this up, I just had a few more quick questions, one of them being
Sure.
I have been like, not reluctant, but, like, I've been thinking about, like, in the afternoon, I'm like, will this taking this Ketone-IQ, because I always feel so, like, locked in, if I take it too late in the afternoon or in the evening, is that going to disrupt my sleep just like taking caffeine would?
Generally, no. It's really interesting. It doesn't interfere with sleep for most people, and certainly not the extent of caffeine, where caffeine is like very specifically blocking your sleep hormone called adenosine. And when you're blocking adenosine, you're not going to be receiving the signals that your body needs to be like know that it's tired. So with ketones, they're just a form of fuel. You can think about it like the way that you need fuel to do anything. Like if it's 10 a.m. and you want to feel sharp, and if you're thirsty at 10 a.m., you might feel a little tired. If you have some water, you'll feel better. If it's 10 p.m. and you're trying to go to bed and you're really thirsty, you might be tossing and turning. You have a little bit of water. It's going to help you go to sleep. There's something about the way water is this adaptive primitive that your body needs for everything, whether you're like thinking or running or recovering. Like it's like so far up the hierarchy of what your body needs versus drugs like caffeine are really specifically targeted on like a really specific endpoint that's going to really specifically stop you from feeling sleepy. So long story short is like Ketone-IQ is not a stimulant. It's not like targeting a specific hormone pathway that's going to make you tired or not tired. It's a fuel source. We have good as empirical science on it too, because there was a study with cyclists where they had them taking ketones 3 times a day for 3 weeks, and it was meant to emulate like Tour de France type of scenario. And they were having it 3 times a day, including half an hour before bedtime. And the ketone group had significantly better recovery and performance on the final time trial at the end of those 3 weeks. So that wasn't like a sleep study per se, but like it did show that by having it half an hour before bedtime, like there wasn't like a significant sleep interference. Like the ketones were able to basically provide this adaptive fuel that when you're recovering as you sleep, your body is burning calories when you sleep, and the ketones are able to fuel that in a way that's not this like jittery stimulant, like keep your brain like hard, super glued dial to on. It doesn't have that kind of effect. It's more adaptive, and like it's whatever your like circadian rhythm is at in the day for what you need to be doing, you need fuel for it, and like ketones can fuel that. So try it out. Worst case that happens, you'll have a bad night of sleep. But I honestly, it's just like not something we see a lot.
No, I love that. Okay.
It's
That makes me feel better.
it's actually like a big use case for it, because a lot of people, because everyone's wearing an Aura or Apple Watch or Whoop these days, and you're tracking your sleep score. And I know a lot of people, they don't touch caffeine after noon anymore, and because they'll get a bad sleep score, their Aura ring will beep at them or whatever. And that Ketone-IQ has been a really interesting solve for that, because yeah, it's 3 p.m. You're a little tired. It's too late in the day to be having caffeine. Um, it's nice to be able to have like a pick me up that's not going to keep you up all night.
No, I love it. So when you think 5 years from now, where do you see H.V.M.N? Where do you see the business at? What kind of impact do you feel like you guys are going to be able to have?
One idea I have that we're not doing yet that is really exciting is taking over more of the kind of mocktail or non-alcoholic space, where like imagine a bar where we have like 20 different mocktails that are all like Ketone-IQ based, and they taste different, or they have different like added functionals inside of it, and the vibe is really nice, the ambiance is nice, like cool music. It's just like a bar. I think one thing bars oftentimes do well, or like, nicer ones especially, is like they're just fun places to hang out that you happen to be sipping poison inside of. Um, and what if you could take that same vibe, that same like social context, like, hey, let's get together at blank, let's like go there, like, and there's the craft that goes into a nice cocktail, like the kind of sense of artistry, the experience, the layers of flavors. Like, what if you could do that, but in something that's like totally healthy and just gets you a little bit like uh of mental clarity, and you feel refreshed off of it? Like that would be so cool. And it's like, because right now a lot of times the third space that we go to now, it's the bar or it's the coffee shop. And what if there could be this other third space outside of your office and outside of your home? What if there could be this other third space for like a ketone lounge? So more to come there. Like got to start somewhere. Right now, everyone's kind of making their own ketone mocktails at home, or just like sipping it on their own. Uh, but that's definitely something in the works for on like the vision board for where we could be taking this.
I love that. Yeah, I've been making some Ketone-IQ mocktails. I'm gonna have to start putting together a little recipe, little cookbook for that, which would be great. For you personally, what is the most exciting thing that really lights you on fire heading into the rest of 2023?
I'm really excited for Chicago Marathon in October.
Nice.
Doing a big build for that. So a little under 10 weeks left for that. And excited. I actually haven't raced since COVID. So I did CIM in Sacramento, like right before COVID, like November, before shit hit the fan. I've been running all through COVID. Like I just got really into trail running and just kind of running, like, not even wearing my watch half the time, or not, like if I'm wearing it, I'm not looking at it. And just like running for the love of it, and just because I don't know about you, but like I was hesitant to sign up for anything because like, yo, is this shit gonna get canceled? Is COVID V7 gonna crop up and this gets canceled? Like, so you get so many friends' weddings canceled, so many marathons. Like I was planning to do all the majors. Like I did Boston, I was gonna do Tokyo, I was gonna do London. Like it all got canceled. So I got kind of I just was let me just run. Like let me stay healthy at the very least. That's the best I could do. COVID's floating around, is like just stay metabolically healthy, just run, not worry about doing anything for races. So anyway, Chicago is like my first one in a few years, actually. So it's been a few years since I've like really have been hammering it. Like, yo, I need to hit my times today. Like I have a really dedicated build up plan, and it's I'm loving it. I miss it. It's really fun. So yeah, long story short, I'm really excited for Chicago. That should be a fun race. I'm also from Chicago originally. So I live in LA now, but I'm from Chicago. I have a 773 number. So I'm very excited to like run around like, oh shit, that's where I went to high school. That's where like I rode that train like 20 jillion times. Like I'm excited to run around Chicago. That'd be fun.
That's amazing. Well, I'm excited to see you crush that. You're gonna go for a PR there, I'm sure. But dude, this was amazing. I learned so much. And for everyone listening, I hope you did too. For anybody who's interested in checking out more of your stuff, check out more about H.V.M.N, where can they find you? Where can they connect with you?
Yeah, check us out at hvmn.com. It stands for Health Via Modern Nutrition. So check out hvmn.com. You can find us on social media at HVMN. You can also find me. I'm pretty active out there. I'm Michael D. Brandt. So drop me a line. Let me know what you're doing. Tag me. Like, see, I'm curious what people's Ketone-IQ mocktail recipes are, or what's your stack, or what you're trying, or what you're training for, or what's going on out there. I love to hear any like experience that people are trying with barefoot, with optimizing certain blood biomarkers, whatever you're trying to do, maxing your time in a cold plunge. Just love hearing what people are up to. So yeah, drop a line.
I love it. Michael, thanks, dude. We'll have to do this again soon. Appreciate all that you do.
Thank you, Dominic. This was a lot of fun, man.
Thank you guys so much for tuning into today's episode. I wanted to give you all a heads up too that I launched a free community on the Upspace app where you can join, ask me questions, connect with like-minded individuals, follow my 4-week running and strength training program that has some dedicated mobility sessions in there as well, so that we can all optimize our health and fitness together. So if you're interested, head over to the App Store, download the Upspace app, and join the Pure Ambition community today. Love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.